All right, so this is going to be a quicker update on just some stuff that I'm doing while I'm waiting for the transmission adapter and like the big exciting stuff starts happening. But you know, the little stuff, it adds up, and you know that stuff needs to get knocked out. So I converted this from a silicone coupler over to this pie cut look because that's pie cut, that's pie cut, that's pie cut back there. It's just kind of the look. Not sure if I'll be running the engine cover, but the engine cover does cover all of this just like factory. So, grand scheme of things, you probably never see it if I ran it. We'll see. We'll see. It was bothering me, kind of thing. On the intercooler side, so the plumbing for the water side of the intercooler, I'm using. Not sure if I mentioned this in the previous video, but I should know that. But whatever. The fuel cell, the 1 gallon fuel cells from like Amazon and stuff like that. I'm just going to use that, and then I converted the intercooler right here to have a 1 1/4, and then it comes up and around and then just returns right into the top of the 1 gallon cell. And then I still need to weld in a 1/2 inch NPT aluminum bung on the bottom to feed the pump. Yeah, that's pretty much how that's looking in the engine bay. Let's see. Man. Yeah, the welder. There's a welder issue I had. Basically, the power. I don't know how many guys you guys are welders, but the power cable on the welder actually like split, and a bunch of argon was coming out, and I didn't know. So not the right amount of argon wasn't getting into my weld. So some of these welds are like me trying to figure out the new power cable and the new argon flow and stuff like that. It really, I don't know, swapping power cables really kind of messed with the welder. It wanted to weld like dirty for a while, and then suddenly it started welding nice again. So whatever, it is what it is. But yeah, so the next thing, so the turbo kit stuff is kind of pretty much done again, second time. And oh yeah, I started blacking out everything on the car and then debadging it. So the Pininfarina thing is gone. I blacked out with the smoke lens paint, whatever stuff, the corner lights, and then blacked out the covers. I did say they make carbon fiber covers. I don't know that maybe they'll make their way onto the car. Maybe I'll get some, maybe I won't. I don't know. I was just doing it for now. The fog light holes, I did some carbon fiber plate that you can get from like Amazon, like 2 or 3 mil carbon fiber plate, and then just took out the fog lights and put in the plate. Basically on this side I couldn't run a fog light anyway, so I had to figure something out, and I figured carbon fiber looks the best. I probably should just make covers for the whole thing and then just it's smooth, but whatever. For now it's that. The grill is all blacked out now, so that's chrome, and that's chrome on usually, and then that's completely different. So I did the smoke black chrome emblem. That's pretty much the only emblem on the car. You can see on that side I'm in the process of blacking all these things out. No emblem here on the quarter panel, and no emblem on the trunk. And then this little trim piece down here got blacked out. It doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't need to say Maserati everywhere. I don't care for it. Emblem obviously here is gone. I'll get some carbon fiber covers for these because I don't think they'd last very long. You can see the trim here. The trim here is gone. I'm in the middle of that. So, and then these are all blacked out. And then I did some hood vents right here that sit directly above all of this setup. So they actually start right here and then they go back to here to help the radiator get some heat out. I will be needing to insulate all this, right, like a normal water to air intercooler setup does. They insulate all that so it doesn't get heat soaked by the radiator, right? You wouldn't want that. So you're gonna insulate all this stuff so that it doesn't get heat soaked and that hot air basically just move around it. Pretty common in the water to air stuff. That's how the hood vents look. Kind of, yeah, back it out, whatever. I had some larger ones that I was going to go up this side, so I was going to go from like here to up. And then, well, they didn't look right because these are angled. So I'm looking for some angled long hood vents to go right here. So it'll be like the long ones and the short ones. And then there'll be a lot of heat that can get out of the engine bay area that doesn't usually be able to get out of it. The last thing is the placement. The placement for the standalone. So what we're figuring is the harness, the jumper harness needs to be about 2.5 feet, which I will not be making, but I can source them for you guys if you're interested. Let me know. You can put a comment down below, and or we can PM on Instagram at JB Engines. But it's not really something I'm gonna like sell. It's just something I'm just gonna put you in contact with the guy that's making it, and he can sell them, unless he wants me to deal with people. But yeah, we're running the Nexus S3. Not sure if I talked about that in the last video. I probably did. And then for the Maserati guys, this is where the factory ECU goes. It just tucks down into this pocket. There's a foam thing that I'm going to put back in there, and then there's a little subwoofer that goes here, and then a kick panel. And when I plug the subwoofer in and turn the car on, I can't notice a difference between, and I had this thing cranked, between that little subwoofer plugged in and with it unplugged. So we're just going to take it out. There's other subwoofers and speakers in the car, and we'll probably end up putting a 12 or a 10 in the trunk anyways, you know what I mean? Just so it has some good beats with the cruising in the car. But I don't think we're missing out on, it's probably a balance thing in the car, right? Like they just put it there. But it does, the system runs and everything just fine without the subwoofer plugged in. So, it doesn't really notice that you've unplugged it. And this is the little connector here. So if you're running a sub in the trunk and you delete this one, maybe you just use the wiring from this to run back to the sub to run it. Not like power it and that kind of stuff, but just like, the remote on wire and whatever else. I'm not a system guy. But yeah, I'll be making I'll be using some insulated mounts. Some of these boys right here. These are little insulated mounts. And then I'll be making a little plate for this thing to sit on. And then it'll probably sit like that. And then I'll show you. This is the kick panel. Oh, man. This is the kick panel right here, and I believe it installs just like this. Yep, it does. So this sits like that. So your kick panel, your carpet goes over that and everything, and then your feet go on that. So the ECU and everything can sit there from the side, and then the splitter harness, if you want to call it, that the factory harness is going to plug into, will split some inputs and outputs to the ECU, the Nexus, and then some inputs and outputs to the factory ECU, so it can run things like the dash and stuff like that. I was debating on running the IC10 dash from Haltech, but I saw on Maserati mods they make a digital dash that plugs into there. I don't know. Here's the problem, is I don't know if you need steering wheel controls to run that dash or how you run those dash. So I would just like a plug and play option, because the plan is to have the car still think that it's running itself, and then the Nexus S3 is just running engine parameters, safeties, anti-lag, flex fuel, all the stuff that you would like engine side. You know what I mean? And then the car can still run, as it were, chassis side, if you want to call it. So that would mean that the factory dash, and I mean gauge cluster, would still be operating just fine. That would be a convenience thing. If I could get the digital one in there, I think that would be really cool. Um, Also, probably going to do the digital, just the radio portion digital as well. And then call me old school, but I like this push button stuff for AC. I live in Arizona, so I'm just going to say, like, if your AC goes out here, you are going to suffer. And an LCD display in Arizona, I don't know how long they're going to last. So call me old school, but I'm keeping that the way that it is. I'm not risking it to not have AC in the car. I know I'm kind of a pansy, but you know, hey, it gets pretty freaking hot here in Phoenix. So, but if the radio goes out, oh well, you know what I mean? You pop it out, you replace it, you pop it back in. If the dash goes bad, again, kind of an inconvenience, but you can get home and say, well, that kind of sucks, let me replace it. So having those LCDs, I'm not too worried about. They're not going to affect how the car operates and that kind of stuff as far as like shutting the car down. But if that LCD goes bad and we can't turn the AC on, or it wigs out, and just, hey, just not going to, you know, I'm not going to fuck with good enough with the AC stuff. So end rant on that. That's pretty much what the plans are. Still waiting for the Speed Jams kit. I probably sound like a broken record with that, but yeah. End of update.